Welcome back to another episode of the Meal Prep Monday podcast. I'm your host and founder of Prep Dish, Allison Schaaf. We are back again with another interview. I'm trying to keep pace about one interview a month. If you are listening to this, a reminder that our interviews are being posted on YouTube if you want to watch us do the interview. And then if you are on YouTube, just know that we do a podcast episode every Monday. Most of them are solo episodes and are not on YouTube. So head to your favorite podcast app, search Meal Prep Monday if you want to check any of those out, especially after this week, because I'm going to have a little mini series that's going to relate to the topic here. So our guest today, so excited to have Kim Brenneman on. She has a book and workbook, Home Management Plain and Simple. And I actually didn't know her before the interview, but I had this book and I've been reading through it, going through the workbook, and was just so inspired by it. She has 9 kids, has homeschooled. Her kids are a little bit older, teenagers and up, and just really has a lot of knowledge on how to help a household to run, but not just run, but run really smoothly. And there were just so many tips and insights in the book, not just on home management, but also, raising kids, and especially in the kitchen. She calls herself a foodie in this episode, and I could tell in the book that was true. So just had a lot of fun talking to her. And after today's episode, I'm going to do some solo episodes with some of my takeaways and things that I'm doing based on reading her book. So this is kind of a kickoff of a mini series there. Before we get into the episode, a reminder that if you have not tried out the Prep Dish time-saving meal plans, we have a 2-week free trial set up for you. So when you sign up for that trial, you'll have access to our archive and our weekly meal plans, everything from super fast, gluten-free, paleo, low carb. All of these plans are going to help you get meals on the table quickly and easily. Make sure you're eating healthy, delicious meals every night. They are a mainstay in my household right now, having 3 kids now, especially with the baby. I have to use my super fast Prep Dish meal plans to make sure I'm getting dinners on the table. So that is prepdish.com/MPM for Meal Prep Monday. It'll be linked in the show notes, but that's really the best place to start. You can try it out for 2 weeks, see how it works for you. Okay, so excited for today's interview. Let's get to it. Here's me and Kim Brenneman. Welcome back to the Meal Prep Monday podcast. I am so excited to have our guest, Kim Brenneman, on today. I have been reading her book on home management and just you guys know I get excited about systems and organization of the home. And I love, even though here I feel like we focus more on meal prep and mealtime, in order to make mealtime happen and to have this, organized, happy family meal going on, there's a broader picture of home management and home organization that also has to be plain to make this all happen. So that's one of the reasons I asked Kim to come on today to share more about that. Before we get into the interview, Kim, why don't you just share a little bit about you and your background?
Okay, well, I'm Kim Brenneman, and I live in Iowa on a farm 10 miles from anything. I've always grown up in agriculture, and my husband and I have been married almost 33 years. We have 9 children. The oldest is 32 and the youngest is 16. When I was first married, I realized that I knew how to do a lot of things, but I didn't have good systems in place. And I was used to school where I was with the same age people every day, all day for, from kindergarten on. And my days were full with school and school activities, college, same kind of thing. I never had to really be the boss of my life. Other systems were the boss of my life. So then when I was independent, then I had to create systems, and I didn't know that. So I struggled for a while on what to do, when to do it, why is my life a mess, that kind of thing, especially when we started having children. And yeah, so that was a lot of what the book is about, what I wrote about, and what it started with a blog. Was me writing down the things I was learning and why I was doing it, how I was doing it, just the different systems I was putting into place into my daily life.
Mm-hmm.
And we homeschooled. So that added a whole different dynamic to it too. The kids were home all day, and I don't know, then the kids got activities and stuff.
Well, and that's so interesting because I find, so my background, I started out as a personal chef. And when I was first starting, I would go into people's homes and do cooking lessons. And I found so many people as they were growing up, they didn't learn how to cook necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think that's so similar to home management. Like that's in the systems that you're talking about. People, this isn't something everyone learns growing up. Now I know you're working to change that with your family. I certainly am trying to as well with my children, and make sure some of this is passed down and all of that. But for a lot of my listeners, I know that they were probably like me. Like I didn't learn all of that. Some of it I did, but it wasn't intentional really. And I have had to learn a lot of that as I go. So let's get into that a little bit. Where do you recommend people start if they're relating to this and being like, yeah, like I feel like I need some systems and I don't have them?
Yeah. Well, what I teach is morning and evening routines first,
Mm-hmm.
because a strong evening routine helps create a good morning. Whether you're leaving the house and your kids are leaving the house and all of that really early, or if you're just trying to get going in the day, and all of a sudden it's, this happened to me when it'd be 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I'd realize, oh, I didn't eat anything and I didn't, and what am I wearing? That kind of thing, because you're just busy with little children as soon as you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even if you have little children, you can still create a routine that involves them and helping them learn a morning routine too from the get-go. But that starts the evening before, having a strong evening routine, an order of events that start at a general time and end at a general time, when you get the kids in bed and get yourself in bed.
So what does your evening routine look like?
Well, I have two routines. You'll appreciate this. One is I call the kitchen routine.
Okay.
I have a morning and evening kitchen routine. So kitchen routine, it's all going to be really personalized to the people. Do you have sourdough and you need to feed your sourdough, or do you drink coffee in the morning and you want to get your coffee pot loaded up the night before? That kind of thing. Knowing ahead what's going to happen the next day, getting things cleared away in your kitchen, everything, ready, because nobody wants to walk into a kitchen that's a mess. No matter what meal you're going to be preparing next, it's really disheartening to walk in and say, oh, there's the mess from the last meal. This is no fun. I don't think I want to do this right now. So, it can be this never-ending cycle. So getting that taken care of in the evening is part of the kitchen routine. And then personal evening routine, that's what you're doing with your kids, reading a story, singing a song, making sure they go to the potty, brush your teeth, say your prayers, all that those things you do with your kids to help them know, oh, it's time to go to bed now. And you can do that with little babies and on up. It just if they grow up knowing this is what we do every evening, then it becomes easier, not starting cold with someone who's 5 years old and has been running the roost for 5 years. So it's easier to start when they're little. And then the same thing for yourself. What do you do to wind down? And and that depends on the season and how old your babies are, or your children. If you have older children, well, and let's talk about older children. All what I have left in my house is teenagers, and we have those teenager activities going on in the evening. Like tonight, I know we're gonna go to a wrestling tournament and not get back till probably 9 o'clock at least, maybe 10, maybe later. So then what's a bare bones routine that I like to do when I go to bed or when I go up to my room? And it's let's see, what is my bare bones? Wash my face. And I like to read a little bit to relax. Doesn't matter what time of night I go to bed, unless it's super duper late, but I like to read. And it might only be like 5 minutes. But I just kind of need that wind down. I'm going to lay in my bed and I'm going to read a little bit. But it's gonna be different every night. If I have more time, then yeah, I'm gonna have a longer routine. There were years where my routine was a 15-minute bath in the evening, just because the day was so stressful. I needed to really spend some concerted effort in decompressing. So I have this routine of I put the kids to bed and told my husband, if anyone's up and about, you're taking care of it. This is time for me to wind down. And I would light candles and get a book and take a little bath and then go to bed. I don't know, it's going to be different and personalized for everybody what it takes to have that wind down time. But yeah, so having that on each end of the day is where I would start. And then next, mealtime routines, because they're pillars in the day. Breakfast, lunch, supper. If you have like an afternoon snack time, kids come home from school or kids have been working and whatever. If your dinner's late, if you have your evening meal at 5:30, it's not a big deal, but because we farm and a lot of the year they're out doing chores and working until it's getting close to dark, we might not eat till 7 or 8. So then the little children need to eat earlier, of course. So we would have like pretty substantial healthy snack late in the afternoon and then a meal later. And so those are pillars in the day. And then also an afternoon chore time. You can have chore time any time of day, but we would have an afternoon chore time every single day. And that's a pillar because if you have that, no matter who's in the house, little children can help clean. Just a time in the day where you're straightening up, doing some vacuuming and dusting of the dirtiest room in your house or floors, that kind of thing. And picking up toys.
Yeah,
those are pillars during the day.
I like the idea of the chore time that you talked about, because I feel like that's something that like kind of ends up happening for me, but I don't have a set time. And I think with kids, the more you can have a routine and a schedule, they'll follow suit and not question it. And so I've enjoyed trying to incorporate that and have it be something we all do together and like, hey, this is just what we do, instead of, oh yeah, I should start tidying and just kind of doing it randomly. And so I just really like the idea of this regular rhythm of like, okay, these are the times in the day where we kind of pause and recalibrate.
Yes. And with kids, I would like change the music in the house. Music is a really good way to set the tone. So like we would have music going when we were doing school that was like no words, just like, I don't know, there's like classical music that's supposed to be like good for your brain and good for study and that kind of thing. So we would a lot of times have that going on during school time. And then, other music we would play at different times, depending on what kind of energy I wanted. If they're like being noisy and rambunctious and it's winter and I'm like going crazy, that would put on something real calm and soothing. And the whole atmosphere of the house would just like, calm down. But for afternoon chore time, a certain playlist is really helpful. Something upbeat and something that says to their brains, okay, it's time to do chores now. And I would say, time to do chores. And you just do a certain order of events that happen. During the times of year where they're out and about, because like I said, we live on a farm. And they were free range kids. So I had a bell out the back door and I'd ring that bell for meal times and ring it for afternoon chore times. That is the only time anyone could ever ring that bell. It's still a rule at our house. I have to teach grandchildren that.
I need to borrow that one.
Yeah, it was super useful. And they knew because they could hear that bell from anywhere on the farm. So there was no excuse. They can say, I didn't hear you yelling, Mom, but if I'm ringing that bell, they know it's time to come to the house and there was no excuse. Yeah. So setting the tone for the afternoon chore time. And then each kid has a set of chores and a room or an area of the house where they were responsible for straightening up and cleaning and, that kind of thing, age appropriate. And I had a lot of kids, so we would buddy up and a team maybe would clean. an appropriately chose team, because there's some kids that get along great and some that don't.
Mm-hmm.
So just personalities, and that also would change with ages, so I had kids that were just like best friends, worst enemies for a few years, both at the same time.
Yep.
And then they wanted nothing to do with each other, and then
Uh-huh.
they're friends again, so I mean, you choose your teams carefully
Uh-huh.
so that the work gets done. You don't have to work on character training all the time. There's times of the day where you can just like be real efficient. Okay, this is what we're doing at 4 o'clock, and these people who work together right now are working together. And
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'd like to talk even more about that. So I do talk a lot about getting kids involved with mealtime and meal prep, but I don't talk as much about, household activities that kids can be involved in. So give some examples of maybe some household chores and what age groups that you found they're appropriate for.
yeah, well, feather dusters are really helpful for cleaning,
Yep.
and they're fun.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a quality one with ostrich feathers, it actually picks up. Teach them to not touch the feathers, because then their skin oils get on the feathers and that makes them not work as well. And so they would have fun with feather dusters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have a couple of them. They'd have to take turns, the different teams would. So that made it fun. And I mean, I don't know, everybody has fun with a feather duster, but preschoolers can use a feather duster. Get one with a short handle. But I should back up a little bit before that. Make sure your house is kid appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have stuff around that you don't want children to mess with or
Yes.
to break.
Yeah.
Just let's be smart and let's help your own self out.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's that, and then kid size tools, and you can find them on the internet. You even could way back in the day. Well, I'd have to like order them out of catalogs a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's kid size appropriate tools, and a lot of times you can, like, even with vacuuming, you can use a shorter wand, or make it doesn't have to be long. So that was helpful. Those kind of tools were helpful. Preschoolers can sweep. They might, here's the thing, you don't need to have high standards for the day-to-day cleaning. When it comes around to Friday and you want a really good cleaning, if you want a really good cleaning, then either hire someone or do it yourself.
Yeah.
But teach them to do quality cleaning, but don't get too hung up on it.
Yeah, I think when they're younger, at least with cooking, I always looking at it as it's an investment now that later on
Yes.
you'll really see, it pay off. But for now, it's, a fun family time, and I don't keep the expectations low. That's a good way of
Yes,
looking at
and
it.
have fun. Make it fun. Talk, laugh, joke, dance with the music,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Just keep moving, be encouraging, and say thank you, and give encouraging words, all the time, because everybody likes to be thanked,
Yeah.
and everyone likes to be encouraged. So do that with your kids. Don't be mean about it, or they won't want to do it. They won't want to be with you. So be encouraging, and say thank you for the work that they did.
Yes.
It's really, really helpful.
It does go a lot way. And I do find that then, once they kind of start to feel that acknowledgement and that pride, and they know that they were seen, and then it just kind of, it keeps going.
It does.
Great. Well, let's go into a little bit of more on mealtime and what are some ways that you help that to be, something that you look forward to in a time that you and your family can really connect?
Yeah, well, I like to cook, and I'm kind of a foodie. And my mom and my grandma both involved me in cooking. Maybe not as much as I did, because I homeschooled and my mom didn't.
Yeah.
And I wasn't with my grandma all the time. But when I was at my grandma's house, if I wanted to help in the kitchen, if I wanted to be with her and do what she was doing, she incorporated me into that. And same with my mom. But like I said earlier, I was in school all day, every day, and then there was after school activities. So there was, there was a little bit of lack there.
Yeah.
But I like to cook, and I always involve the kids, and I do this with my grandkids too now when they come over. They love to come and cook with grandma. which is fun. I just pull up chairs, and if, they start fighting, we put a chair on one side and a chair on the other side, and just incorporate them into what you're doing. Now with little preschoolers, little ones, toddlers, it's hard to make recipes and cook in the kitchen when you have little ones that are also asking for attention. So what I did was I would have like tubs or baskets with activities for them to do only in the kitchen. And they would be at the table, and I would use beans or rice or things like that, and just transfer activities, so give them little different kinds of spoons, slotted spoons, big spoons, little spoons, pouring utensils that are kid size, different sizes, and they would be busy for a long time doing that kind of thing. So that's what I would pull out when I wanted to be in the kitchen and little ones were like asking for a lot of attention. And then as I get older, just involve them with everything. Because I had so many children. At some point in time, I assigned each kid a day of the week, and that was their day that they could choose the recipes that they wanted to make. They had to let me know ahead of time so we could make sure we had ingredients on hand. I'm talking like elementary, upper elementary, that kind of thing. Even the junior high and high school kids, that was their day. Because otherwise they all might want to be in there cooking and hands in, and that's too many people in the kitchen. So so we had assigned days, and then that person was my kitchen helper. And so they're learning what we're making, they're learning how to make things, and they also get some special time with mom. So that's how we did that. Once I had so many kids that I was getting outnumbered, and things were getting a little overwhelming, and that was super helpful. And they all like to cook and they like to make things, and they're all capable in the kitchen because of the years that they did that, and I involved them in the kitchen. The other thing is, are you familiar with Sally Fallon and Nourishing Traditions? That traditional foods kind of a thing. I was a big fan of hers, starting, I don't know, in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And so the kids, here's the thing, my older kids grew up knowing how to ferment and do the sourdough and all those kind of French type things, which really aren't French, they're just old ways.
Right.
Knowledge that was lost.
My great grandmother did those things.
Yeah. So they grew up knowing it. Well, then here's what I found, because I'm getting back into that because I fell out of it for a while. And part of that, the reason was because I went to nursing school when I was in my 40s and became a nurse midwife. Okay, so I was in school for several years, and I started taking all kinds of shortcuts because I was so busy. Well, so then I had the last few of my children didn't know these kind of things. So now they're teenagers and they're learning it. And I'm like, why do you not know this? Oh, because back when we were doing it, you were the little people. So anyway, they're having fun now with me getting back into sourdough and fermenting and kombucha and all that.
No, those are great activities. And I think some of those, it's just like people are, always searching on Pinterest for these, like, oh, let me find some kid activities, or, there's something you can buy. And I'm like, if you just look in the kitchen, there is plenty.
Yes,
of,
you don't have to buy anything.
Activities that you can, incorporate them in. So
and they can wash dishes too. I would do that. I would put them at the sink because they love water play. Preschoolers love water play.
I have a 4.5-year-old and he loves to help with dishes.
Yes, just let them wash dishes, and they're gonna make a mess. But you know what that mess means is that you're just gonna be cleaning your kitchen, because once they're down and they get down, you just wipe it all up, wipe the floor, and you've just cleaned. Really fast. You cleaned your kitchen. So.
Well, this is so many great tips here, and I know I could just keep going on and on and on. I've been so inspired by your book. I recommend, I'll make sure everything's linked in the show notes, but it has an accompanying workbook as well. So it's a book workbook duo, and I've actually been working through both of those and
Oh, good.
highly recommend it for anyone looking to get more of a handle on these types of things. Why don't you share with listeners how they can find you and what your, anything else that you have going on?
Yeah. Well, my website is homeplainandsimple.com. And I have a course there called the Blueprint course. And that includes working through the book, has a lot of printables, and there's audio of the chapters and how to put your own home management book together. So I guess we didn't talk about that, but that's okay. Home management book is just it's like a brain outside your body. You can read more about it there. So that's in the course. And then plus there's a community and weekly Zoom calls where you can get coaching in a group setting, or sometimes it's one-on-one, depends on how many people show up, I never know.
I've had that too, yes.
Yeah. And and then I'm on Instagram, but not very active. And that's again, Home Plain and Simple. Home Plain and Simple. Yeah. Yeah. So if you put in Home Plain and Simple, you'll find it all.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. I really appreciate your time and appreciate the book. You're so inspiring. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah. All right. Good to meet you. Thanks, Allison.
Thank you, Kim, for coming on this episode. I have kind of stuck to the short, sweet episodes. I know my solo episodes are I try and keep them in the range of like 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes 20. The interviews, I'm going more 20 minutes, but I'm sure you can tell with some of these guests, I could just keep going. I have a lot of questions and things to talk about, but I like the shorter episodes. So anyway, Kim, thank you for coming on. So much insight into routines and rhythms in the household. Like I mentioned at the beginning, she does have the book. She has a course that goes along with the book. I'm interested to check that out. We'll make sure all of that is linked down in the show notes. And like I said, in the upcoming weeks, I'm going to dive deeper into some of the topics in that book. So that's what you have to coming at you in the next few weeks on the podcast. A reminder that if you have not tried out our time-saving meal plans, head to prepdish.com/MPM. You get 2 weeks free. It's the best way to take a look, try out some of the recipes, see if your family likes it, see if it, how much time does it save, and go from there. So that's prepdish.com/MPM to try those out. And if you're a longtime listener and you enjoyed this episode, those ratings and reviews, they mean a lot. That's how people find the podcast. And if you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up if you like seeing the interviews. For now, I'm going to keep doing the interviews up here. I think it's nice. Some of the podcasts I listen to, I do like to get on and see who I'm listening to. So if you enjoy that, let us know. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. So that is all I have today, but I will be back again next Monday with another episode.